Okay, so since 2006, I've been trying to figure out, extract the meta, the way you've put it, of social justice warriors. And I think I found it, actually. They seem to have this behavior where they nebulize every standard we have. So they take a standard you have that has full of criteria. They say what something is how it is. Like, that's a podium, but it has these criteria within it that make it. Oh, sorry. They take, they do something called nebulization, where they take something, a what, and they dissolve the criteria such that there is no way to say how it is. So you see this now with gender, where someone will say they're a gender, but there's no way to get logically from how they can be that gender, like how you can be an attack helicopter, or a male, or a woman, or something like that. But the thing that came from this, and I figured this out when I learned about you, is that nebulization appears to be the exact opposite process of individuation. It's the philosophical version of individuation that rests on three premises or three core axioms, which is I exist, which is an axiom that exists in the objective, that you exist here. And then I am, which is a reiteration or reincarnation of I exist, which is, well, basically you have to say I'm right about having existed or else it just falls apart. And then you have as, which is the question begged from that. Well, if you exist and you're right, as what? And you're talking about God being the metaphor of God in Genesis being a metaphor for the creation of consciousness. And it appears that individuation actually fits that triad. Because if you take as, for example, the as it's the predictive aspect, where you try to take the subjective and make it objective. So you have an idea, you test it in reality, and time is the ultimate arbiter that determines these things. And it changes your understanding of reality. It lets you know God. It lets you know the objective. And then from that point, there's the subjective, which is supposed to be formed from objective reality. But because you've changed that, you now have to sacrifice your old self. The old way you saw Jordan Peterson of 10 years ago was not who he is now. So it gets sacrificed. And at the same time, you can point back to that guy, that Jordan Peterson, and say, well, that guy was wrong. And that's the scapegoating of the Son. So the subjective aspect, the I am right, is the Son, and then the Holy Spirit, which is supposed to lead you to God, is the as.
Okay, I don't understand the relationship between that and the first part.
Go.
So can you just clarify that? The social justice aspect and the nebulization.
Oh, the social justice is the exact opposite process of individuation. That's all it is. And it actually occurs at as. If you're at as and you're thinking, well, what am I? You either apply individuation, you try to apply criteria, you try to find out what you are in reality, or you refuse that paradigm and say, well, look, I'm always going to be right, I'm completely self-righteous, and you stop at that subjective aspect, where everything becomes subjective and you ultimately become relativistic and nihilistic. So I'm asking, have you considered that the Genesis tale and the creation myth and God is actually the process of individuation, and the Trinity is actually those three core premises, the three axioms that come from that.
Okay, I haven't considered that. I mean, I know that Jung drew a parallel between the idea of the passion, for example, and the development of human individuality. And so there's that idea is lurking inside the Jungian notion of individuation, because it has to do with voluntary confrontation with mortality and also with evil, right, as two of the key elements of genuine self-realization. I haven't considered the metaphorical pathway that you just described, so I can't comment on that. I'd have to think about that. But I could say that one of the things that does disturb me about the ideological battle that's going on right now, and I think this is a very deep part of it, and this is the part that's a battle against the logos in Derrida's old terms, right? The phallogocentric West needs to be taken down to its essence, is the refusal to engage in precise language. And I see that in part, for example, manifested in the refusal of the people who I'm criticizing to ever engage me in any debate. They don't believe in debate, and they don't believe in the let's say, the redemptive power of dialogue, because mostly what they believe in is power. So there's a nebulization in that manner. There's this tendency to hide behind what's vague and fog-like instead of making things sharp and clear and crystalline. And I do think that that's part of the degeneration of a civilization as far as I'm concerned. So
you haven't considered that then?
No.
Not yet. Would you please?
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
Please.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.